Welcome to Wednesday Wanderings. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrew in Newlands, Cape Town. We are following a wonderful book by Rowan Williams, God With Us, as our Lenten program this year in the parish. Last week I reflected briefly on the cross as a sign. This week we've been immersed in the sacrificial nature of the cross. And it's been really interesting to explore the experience of the cross from the Old Testament into the New Testament and into the life of the early church and later church, and how it impacts on us today. I'm struck that I have tended to carry quite a simplistic picture of sacrifice and seeing it purely in its physical terms. An animal dying, blood being spilt, and that in some form enabling us to renew relationship with God. At least certainly in the Old Testament picture that I've carried. Recognizing that even in the Old Testament there was thinking beyond that, and the understanding that in fact God wasn't particularly interested in dead animals and spilt blood. God was far more interested in the heart of human beings and in a community that really embraced love and justice and compassion and sought to live that out in life. It's interesting how in the New Testament writers draw on many of or much of what is in the Old Testament, particularly around sacrifice. And as the New Testament writers reflect around Jesus' death and the meaning of the cross, that they draw on the Old Testament images. And yet they grow that. And so in the New Testament we discover a shift to really beginning to understand sacrifice as obedience. We see the roots of that in the Old Testament, but particularly in Jesus' life, a real commitment to being obedient to the call of God on who he was and the mission that he understood himself to have in this world. Obedience not in the sense of snapping to attention and saluting, but rather a willingness to mirror back to God the love and the joy and the goodness that we know from and in our relationship with God. And more than that, and just acknowledging Anselm of Canterbury, who lived the end of the 11th century into the early 12th century, in really helping us understand sacrifice as gift, not just death, not just blood, etc., but actually as this wonderful gift of God to us, particularly in relationship to Jesus' death and of course subsequent resurrection. And a wonderful sense in all of that for me, that Jesus' death on the cross really was an embracing of evil. It was an embracing of the worst of human violence and brokenness, and it was taking that and just transforming it into something so much more, into Jesus' death itself opening up opportunity for us, opportunity to embrace life in the fullness of all that God has ever intended it to be. To set aside the forces of evil, to set aside the power of death, and say, here is this brilliant gift. Live it. Live it to our greater good. Live it to God's greater glory. How are you living this wonderful gift? The sacrifice of Jesus. The gift that it is to you and I in embracing the fullness of life and embracing the fullness of relationship with God.